This was such a different film. When I started watching it, I was wondering, I was like, is this a documentary? Is it, a film? Is it a docudrama? And when I started reading about it, I said, oh, it's kind of like a mix of all of them. I want to start with you, Marissa, and kind of tell me where the inspiration from this came from. I know, of course, from Jazzy herself, but what made you think to kind of build the movie in this way?
Um, I mean, all these projects kind of happen in this unfold in this organic way that is just really natural. Like it's not really incredibly thought through for years before. We just kind of, I mean, we wanted to make a movie about Jazzy. We had all this footage from the Unknown Country. We still were making the Unknown Country at that time, but we loved Jazzy and she wanted to continue, making stuff with us and had a smaller role in the Unknown Country. So we just started filming her and her life, and she would share stories with us, and so we just kind of started it. And then, we thought maybe it would be a good idea if Jazzy also had a friend. Our DP had suggested that. And so Lainey, Jazzy's mom, suggested Jazzy's best friend, Syriah, to also be in the film. So, I mean, the reason they feel kind of natural is because the build towards them is sort of natural. And then once you know, it took us a second to kind of find what the story could be, but that happened naturally because we were like, I mean, I live more than half the year in South Dakota, really close to Jazzy. So like we, talked about it. And I'm sorry, the answer to that is that it happened quite organically.
No, I completely understand. And Jesse, what was it like kind of being able to act with your best friend? Did you have moments where it kind of felt awkward because you were kind of like doing a script, or was it just like, oh, this is just me and my friend?
It was really fun because I had like we hung out and we did activities together behind the scenes, but it was also kind of awkward and it took us a few tries to get an actual good scene because we're not used to like fighting and stuff. So it was very very awkward, but otherwise me and her had a lot of fun.
Mhm. There's something so special I find about like girl friendships, and especially girl friendships that go through that time when girls really do change, and not just like hormones and not just puberty, but just socially, when girls really kind of determine like, who we like and, what kind of determines who we are. What do you think is special about girl friendships in general?
You answer
Um,
that first. I'm curious what you think of
about like
girl friendships.
I guess it's really fun since you'll have more like relatable situations and problems that you guys can help each other with and that you might get along like a little more. And so like girl friendships, I like them and they're like it's just something that I would personally prefer maybe because like you can actually talk to them about certain situations and that they'll most likely be able to help you on that.
Hmm.
And I think like, you know, they like Jazzy and I would talk a lot about also like a very relatable thing to me that Jazzy was going through is girl friendships also shift a lot and they change a lot,
Hmm.
right? And so like, um we take everything very seriously and we take our emotions, right, very seriously. And so there's something very specific, that's why like what I also love about the movie is like, the girls are going through it and the boys are just like, I have a million like their problems are like nothing. And like and I think also when Jazzy was talking about what she was going through with her friends, even though, I also remembered what that felt like. I remembered what that felt like in middle school, high school, where like your friends are everything. Your
Yeah.
world is your friends. And so like and I also miss that. Like when we get older, our friends, in the world we live in today, it's not so surrounded by just like these, but yeah, girl friendships are very specific.
Yes. I wanted to ask you, Marissa, when we have these really close relationships, because you're Jesse's godmother, is that correct?
Yeah.
So when you have these really very close, I have my nieces are just like my world. She is just everything to me. And, you know, my goddaughters, same thing. There are some things that we can kind of tell them as women to girls, you know, these are the things that you're going to go through that I want to help you kind of caution, you know, stay away from. But then there are things that we can tell them, but they're just going to have to experience them on their own. What what is like one thing that you're like, this is one thing I want to tell Jazzy that, you know, I can kind of help her go through? And then what's one thing that I'm like, you know, that you're like, she has to go through this on her own?
Big question.
Um,
Um, I mean, I think like the guy, as she was telling me a lot of the stuff that happens with her friends and those and like the dramas and the feeling so hurt by different things and different friends moving and really feeling that so much, like that is something that I felt like I could maybe, help with a bit of being like, well, like those friendships like from that time period, like you move on and you shift and you grow from those, and every friendship you have, you like changes you, and it doesn't mean that the rest of your life is over because that friendship, like I do, I think about that time in my life a lot, so I feel like maybe I'm like a little helpful, I don't know, maybe not, and those things. um but truly what you can't like, help kids with is also just like going through it. They got to go through it.
Yeah.
Like all you can do, which is why I also love the movie, is like pay attention to it and listen and actually give it value. And I feel like that's what the movie does. Versus just being like, that's a kid problem. Like that doesn't matter, but actually really being like, oh, I know how that feels. And right.
mhm.
Yeah.
I love that we're getting the story of, you know, a Native girl in South Dakota, but it's also the story of just every girl. You know, like it's so universal and it's so universally told. I wanted to ask you, Jazzy, when you're kind of thinking about this story, are you thinking about it ever from like a place of diversity or representation? Or are you just kind of thinking of it like this is a story that kind of every girl goes through, or maybe it's like a mixture of both?
I think it's mainly both because I know that people have relationship problems and like that can like I know friends can like come and go and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure not everyone's gonna have the same reaction as it. So
Mm.
like everyone's gonna handle it differently, but I think most people might have that kind of problem with their friends and like even family members and stuff like that.
Yeah, like universally, you feel like a lot of kids go through what you go through in the movie. Yeah.
But they just don't have that reaction as I might like I do have like friends come and go and stuff like that, but I think the way I reacted in the movie is not how I would exactly react as if I
Mm.
had a friend move in real life.
You wouldn't run after Syriah, like,
No, no, definitely not.
and Syriah did end up moving
Yeah, she
quickly.
did move, but she's not like away. Like I can still see her at school and stuff.
Well, one of the kind of barriers to getting a movie made like this 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, is that they would say, oh, well, if a white girl were to watch this, you know, she wouldn't be able to relate because it's a brown girl, you know, playing it. Or if, you know, if it was a black girl playing, well, if, you know, if a white girl were watching, it would be a black girl playing it. But it's like, no, you're telling a story that anyone can relate to, someone who has been through those feelings, you know, has been through that heartbreak. And I guess what I was basically wondering is like, there are some things in our lives that are kind of like culturally guided, and you know, when we're the way that we react to things sometimes are culturally guided, but the way that we react to things are sometimes just universal. Sometimes it's just everybody kind of deals with heartbreak, everybody deals with sadness. And so I guess I was wondering, when you're thinking about these stories, are you thinking about them just kind of very personally, like this is what I go through and I'm just going to tell my story? Or are you thinking about it as, you know, I am a Native girl and this is the story that I want to tell as a Native girl?
So I think that like I want like a thing where everyone can relate, but I also do want to add like my culture and stuff to it so people who watch can have like a better understanding of our culture because I know they do teach it at school, but not many people might pay attention to it. Or like
Mhm.
people might even not have heard or like learned about Native Americans. So I'd like to like show it in the movie so people have a better understanding of us and like what we do.
I think that's a great answer, and I really appreciate that too. I think it's so well done. And like I said, there's such a kind of cinema verite quality to it where everything is so real and it's so approachable and it's so cozy. There's like the part with the birthday party, we're just running around and like throwing up balloons, and it's so just nostalgic and it feels so good that even the parts of heartbreak feel just so welcome and just like, ah, someone gets it. So thank you guys so much. I do want to ask one more question, and this is to you, Marissa. If you were to basically kind of give like, what do you want what conversations do you want to be started from people who go and see this film?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I think that the film does a lot of things that I'm proud of. I think one of them that Jazzy and I have talked about a lot is just, um, the kids did an incredible job in this movie.
Mhm.
Like they killed it. And I think just like, and it's mostly kids, and I think like the fact that they were able to be on screen, bring their stories to the film, represent themselves in the film, be equal collaborators on the film
Yeah.
is something that I'm so proud of. And I know the kids like feel proud of as well. So for me, that's a very broad answer, but that's
Mhm.
probably that gets a lot of the stuff in.
Well,
Right,
it
Jack?
really is. Yeah, I was going to say it really is the kids are all right. The kids are going to be all right.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I'm so proud of them. Like I'm so proud of them.
Yay.
Yeah, so
Well, I was going to say as a viewer, I am very proud as well. Just as a
thanks.
totally disconnected viewer. This was such a feel good, just wonderful film. And I can't wait to see more from both of you. So thank you again for taking time to talk with us and for this beautiful film.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.